All right, guys, what's going on? This is episode number 11 of the Armchair Armdrager Podcast, and as always, I'm your host, Ben Hersick. A lot happened last week in the wrestling world. We had AEW's Fight for the Fallen, we had Impact Wrestling Slammiversary, we had the Evolve 10-year anniversary show, we had the G1 Climax getting into the swing of things, and we had Extreme Rules. I'm going to break down as much as possible. A couple events I'm just going to give a brief overview. But first, as always with these things, you can follow myself on Twitter at ChurroSolider. You can follow this podcast at Podcast Armchair. Trying to be a little more interactive with that. Been busy these past couple days, so I haven't been as much. Hoping to fix that, though, and continue to post daily about random little wrestling facts that I find interesting. And also, you can follow the website that I write for All Things Combat on Twitter at Things Combat. For those of you that don't know, if you've listened to this podcast before, you would know all of these things. All Things Combat is a website where we cover professional wrestling, boxing, and MMA. We try to post articles roughly every other day, and we're pretty active Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I believe 3 articles. I think it's 5 articles throughout the whole weekend. I don't remember the breakdown, though. It all depends on what events and what shows are going on, too. We are continuing our SummerSlam review. We are up to 2007, which came out Wednesday, that I did, and 2008, which will come out possibly Saturday. It depends on how much I can get done tonight. We'll have to wait and see on that one. That one's in a state of possibly on Friday, possibly on Saturday. Don't know yet. I'll let you guys know. I'll tweet it out when it comes out. Let's see. What else is going on? So, the wrestling world's been busy, as always. We had 5 events last weekend. I watched, 5 overall, with AEW, Impact, New Japan, Evolve, and WWE. I watched 3. I'm trying to keep up with the G1, and it's continually going on. I have night 5 loaded up, ready to go tonight. But I'm hoping to get that done tonight before I go to work tomorrow. Because then when I can get home, I want to watch night 6, which is on Friday morning for us Americans. So I'm trying to keep up to date with that. So I haven't had a chance to see Fight for the Fallen or Slammiversary yet. From what I heard, both were great shows. I can give a little bit of a insight to what happened on them. I do have some of the card stuff pulled up. So for Bound for Glory, not Bound for Glory, that's the other big Impact one. Slammiversary. I'm 3 minutes into this thing and I'm already messing up. Slammiversary, nothing too wild happened. LAX lost the tag titles before the show, actually. I don't understand why Santana and Ortiz lost them beforehand. I really enjoy watching them. They're both really talented in the ring. Then again, so are Ethan Page and Josh Alexander of the North. So it's a weird call that they would lose it. I believe it was 2 days or a day before at Bash at the I can never say that word right the first try. Bash at the Brewery. They lost them there instead of at Slammiversary. Why would you have a big name team lose the titles on a show before your big show? That's like if Roman Reigns lost the Universal Championship to who's a mid-card guy right now in WWE. That's not doing too much, but is seen regularly. Losing the Universal Championship to Cesaro before WrestleMania. The week before WrestleMania. It's like that. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I know LAX is on the way out. We don't know where they're going. I've heard both sides, WWE and All Elite Wrestling. I personally think they don't work in either of them. But AEW does need tag teams. And Raw and SmackDown really need help in the tag team division. So, we'll see. If it gets to a bidding war, then I'm pretty sure WWE isn't going to want to push too much. Khan can just throw money at them, which is one of my fears with All Elite Wrestling. But we'll wait and see when All Elite Wrestling TV gets to starting up, I'll have probably a big All Elite Wrestling week that week set up. And we'll look and see what could happen in the future. One thing that I do think is interesting, Eddie Edwards and Moose are both getting big time pushes. It kind of feels like. And you look at the main event scene in Impact Wrestling right now. You have Brian Cage, Michael Elgin. You throw Moose in there. That's 3 really big guys, and then Eddie Edwards. He's not nearly as big as the other 3. Is he a great wrestler? Yes, I absolutely loved watching him back in his Ring of Honor days with the American Wolves. But he just isn't as big as them, so it could look a little weird. Who else is big in Impact right now? There's a lot that they have to figure out. Taya Valkyrie keeps dominating the women's division. I don't really know what other direction they're going to go with that. Simply because of the fact that Allie's gone. Rosemary's lost in the championship match now. I don't remember who took the pin. I know Jessica Havoc, Rosemary, and Su Yung were in the match. I don't remember who took the pin, though. And now Johnny Impact has left Impact Wrestling. So now the question is, where does Johnny Impact end up? For those who don't remember, Johnny Impact is John Morrison. Does Morrison go back to WWE? Or does he go to All Elite Wrestling? Or does he stay in Impact, actually? Because I remember reading his wife, I believe, yes, they are married. His wife, Taya Valkyrie, really, really likes Impact. Of course, things can change within 5 months when her contract's up in December. I think it's late December or early January. One of the two. When her contract's up, who knows what their standing will be with Impact? It's going to be an interesting one to watch because those are 2 big names that can probably work anywhere. I'd love to see Morrison go back to WWE. Partly because I want one more run with Morrison and Miz. Imagine that tag team back now in the WWE tag team division. I said Brian Cage beat Mike Elgin. Brian Cage defeated Michael Elgin to retain the Impact World Championship. What people don't realize is that Rhino, when he showed up, those who haven't seen, Rhino showed up at Slammiversary. When Rhino showed up, he was still under WWE contract. His contract didn't end until, I believe, yesterday or today. So Wednesday or Thursday. His contract is now officially up and he is a free agent. It was surprising to some people that Rhino went there. Rhino, he's kind of thrived in these smaller promotions. He never really broke out in WWE, but in ECW, he was fantastic. He was even in the top 10 of the PWI 500 one year. I believe it was 2001. To get into the top 10 means you're in the elite of the elite that year. And Rhino being in that conversation was a little weird at first, but when you look back at what ECW was then and how Rhino helped carry the company, it's kind of hard to argue he wasn't in the top 10. He's older now, and he does have a career in politics, it seems. He was running for mayor, I believe, of his own city. And I think it was mayor. It might have been not governor. It was some political office he was running for. So it's going to be interesting to see how his political campaign works around Impact and that schedule. Maybe it helps a little bit. He is a big name that they kind of need. They don't really have too many big names that people know. Well, everybody knows Rhino. Everybody loves Rhino. If you don't love Rhino, something is wrong with you. Who doesn't love a human brick wall? That's what he looks like. And then also Sami Callihan defeated Tessa Blanchard. I am all for intergender wrestling. I enjoy it. I love seeing it. And it shows the woman doesn't have to win every time because it's going to be like, oh, women always have to win. No. I don't think it's wrong when they don't win. I don't think it's right when they do win sometimes. If it's justified by the story, then good to go. And Sami Callihan defeating Tessa Blanchard was good for the story. And it's going to be interesting to see how this develops now and what direction they decide to take it. I believe they're a team in an intergender, in a mix-up tournament. Because I believe one of the Rascals is teaming with one of the Christ brothers from OVE. And I know Rich Swann is teaming with Madman Fulton. in that tournament. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm excited to see the direction they have. I don't know how long Blanchard is going to be in Impact because she's like the big fish in a small pond. Like, yeah, Brian Cage is good, and so is Michael Elgin, and everybody else I've already mentioned, but they're no real big name. They're not really big names yet. If you say it to like a casual wrestling fan, they'll be like, or if you say Blanchard, they'll be like, I remember that last name, but it's not Tully. So they'll know the names. Like the casual fans might know the names, but like the diehard fans who have invested way too much time in the wrestling in their lives, I'm looking at myself, they'll know who these people are. So we'll see. I would love to see Tessa Blanchard in WWE. I just don't feel like in AEW they really invested in the women's division. They have the big names like Allie, Awesome Kong. Who else? Bea Priestley, Britt Baker. But they haven't really done much to even help the women's division yet. So we have to wait and see on that one. But overall, I heard Slammiversary was a good show. I will be checking it out. Hopefully soon. Maybe my next day off if there's no G1 stuff to catch up on. So Fight for the Fallen. I have the All Out thing opened. Wait. The event will determine the inaugural AEW World Champ and the AEW Women's World Championship belt will be unveiled. Okay, so we're getting the Women's Championship unveiled at All Out. I'm hoping to be able to see that one live. Fight for the Fallen. What really happened here? I don't think too much that would surprise people happened here. Let's see. It was rather long from what I heard too. So, I'm looking through. There was the spot that I saw everyone talking about where Britt Baker went to tag the wrong person. Apparently, from what I read, she suffered a serious concussion. So I feel like that kind of played into it. And I believe both tag partners in that match were wearing white. So in a not healthy, I guess the healthy is the best way to describe it. In the concussed brain, I guess, is, for lack of a better term, for the injured Britt Baker, she saw white. She knew her partner was wearing white. She went to the corner to tag in. It was just the wrong corner. I'm defending Britt Baker here. I don't think it was her fault. And again, like I said, Britt Baker and Bea Priestley are the big names in All Elite Wrestling for the women's division. If that match is not the championship match for the women's championship, I'll be surprised. There is Allie who could play into things. Awesome Kong, Age of Kong. I don't think Brandy's going to play into it too much. It'll be interesting to see. So after the Brandy Rose Allie match, there was the Awesome Kong and Age of Kong stare off. I want that match to happen. I'm very excited for that. And we could finally see Awesome Kong, back in her kind of role as like a dominant wrestler, but she's also pushed by another dominant wrestler, which will be very interesting to see because I don't think she's ever been against somebody roughly the same size as her. I'm trying to think back to her days in Impact. Velvet Sky, Angelina Love, Madison Rayne, Gail Kim, I believe even Brooke Tessmacher was still there. ODB was there, I remember her. That's like 6 people who are all smaller than her. So her being pushed by somebody of roughly the same size would be really interesting to see. I'm really excited for it. It's probably going to be on All Out. And I will be very entertained and interested in it. The Dark Order, this is important. Dark Order of Evil Uno and Stu Grayson defeated Angelico and Jack Evans and a boy and his dinosaur in Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. Maybe my favorite tag team name going right now. To set up the Dark Order versus Best Friends for the first round bye in the AEW World Tag Team Championship Tournament. That's important for All Out because that is going to be one of the matches. It also gets Beretta and Chucky T on the card, so I'm happy for that. I always love watching Beretta. And Chuck T's pretty cool too. So, Adam Page there was no upsets. Page beat Kip Sabian. Kenny Omega beat CIMA. And the Lucha Bros beat SoCal Uncensored, as everybody expected. Lucha Brothers eventually called out the Young Bucks and challenged them to a ladder match for the AAA Tag Team Championships. At first, I was like, what are these two going to even fight for? Like, I forgot the AAA Tag Team Championships were going to be on the line. So I'm like, oh, okay. I'm very curious to see how CIMA looked against Omega because of the fact that the match went 22 minutes, and I haven't seen a lot from CIMA yet. So I'm very excited to see what CIMA can do in a interesting match, especially with somebody of the caliber of Kenny Omega. Same with Kip Sabian and Page. That went 19. So I'm curious to see how that's going to look. And then the Young Bucks beat the Brotherhood of Cody and Dustin. I'm curious more as to how much Dustin has left. I kind of want to see him have one more singles run, but also I don't want him to do it if he's not 100% healthy. He is coming off of double knee surgery, just like Kevin Owens is, and they want him to be... Cody probably wants him to be healthy. He doesn't want him to retire and be in pain. I would be totally fine with Dustin walking away at any time. He's earned the right to, and I'm sure we'd all love to see what he can still do, but his health comes first. And I know that question was kicked around a lot on social media that night. So, I'm not saying this is it, but we're in the final days of Dustin Rhodes being a professional wrestler. Which isn't the worst thing. I mean, it's not that he was bad. He was never bad. He was always pretty good. He was always a solid worker, and we always enjoyed watching him. But there does come a time when it happens, and he's been around for quite a long time. The first thing I remember about Goldust is WrestleMania... God, was it 12? I think it was 12 with the Hollywood Street fight against Roddy Piper. That's my first Goldust memory. And from WrestleMania 12 to present day, that's a very long run. He's earned the right to hang it up at any time. So, Dustin, if we see you again, it's been a blast and we enjoy watching you. If we see you wrestle more, I'm all for it. But this event was used to set up All Out, which is going to be a very, very interesting show. So at All Out, we know the main event is going to be the first ever AEW champion crowned. It's either going to be Adam Page or Chris Jericho. I feel like we all think it's going to be Page. And I think if they don't go Page, then they're blatantly ripping off WWE with having a part-timer as their champion. Yes, I'm saying AEW is ripping off WWE. I don't really think that's what it is. I just feel like it would be weird if the two biggest wrestling promotions in the world had their major champions as part-time wrestlers. To me, it wouldn't make sense. So, Paige does feel like a safe pick there. As we get closer and closer to the show, that might flip-flop. But as of right now on the show, that's the one I feel the most confident in. Announced also was Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega. That's going to be a lot of fun. And Moxley is playing into the G1. I'm very excited to see his direction for the rest of the tournament. I'm very curious how far they're going to go, because he is one of the few guys not under New Japan contract for that tournament. Best Friends versus the Dark Order, where the winner receives a first-round bye in the All Elite Wrestling Tag Team Tournament. I'm curious how many teams is that going to be. Because they say first-round bye, I think 7 teams, 3 first-round matches with somebody getting a bye. And I'm trying to think of all the tag teams in AEW. Let's say Young Bucks, SoCal Uncensored, Phoenix and Pentagon, Best Friends, Dark Order, A Boy and His Dinosaur, Angelico and Jack Evans, Private Party. That's 8 right there. You get LAX, possibly that's 9. I don't like tournaments that have buys anyway. Like for the NFL, it works. They have 6 teams make the playoffs. Yeah, 16. You have the 4 division winners, and you have 2 wild cards. The wild cards face the 2 lowest divisional winners, where the 2 highest divisional winners get first round buys. So it's always weird like that, and how it plays into like who faces who and what. I am curious though, how do like as to how many teams we're gonna see. We could see the Brotherhood in it with Dustin and Cody. We could see who else. I wouldn't mind a Havoc and Janela, or a Havoc Allen or Janela Allen tag team. Those would be really interesting. MJF teaming with Gravina would be really cool. Or even throw Sean Spears and MJF. That'd be a fantastic heel team. But yeah, so I'm more curious as to what teams will be in the tournament over the first round bye right now. We also have the Lucha Brothers versus the Young Bucks for the AAA World Tag Team Championships in a ladder match that I already mentioned. Kind of excited for it. I'm starting to learn that I'm not a big fan of the Young Bucks. I'll admit they're good. I'm just like, it just doesn't work with me. I don't know why. It's always one of those guys. It's like them, Yoshinobu Kanemaru. I bought a Kanemaru shirt, for crying out loud. They just something. Toru Yano is another great example. Something just doesn't click with me, and I don't like it. And I don't know why I don't like it. It's annoying. Then also we have Sean Spears versus Cody in a first blood match. This is going to be interesting because Sean Spears never really got a chance to shine in WWE. Even in NXT, he had good matches. He would always have good matches, but he would never be like a star. So, excuse me. So I'm curious to see how well he does. I'm excited to see how well he does because I love seeing people get chances and opportunities. And now Sean Spears is getting that. So how is he going to step up to the plate? What is he going to do to show that he belongs? If he beats Cody, that's a big one. We'll have to wait and see on that. So, as of right now, that's the All Elite Wrestling card for All Out. Based off of what happened to Fight for the Fallen, we can add in AJ Kong versus Awesome Kong. OWE will be represented in some way, shape, or form. Probably Sema, Nakazawa, and T-Hawk possibly like involved somehow, some way. And Helico is probably going to be on the card. I want more Luchasaurus. We'll have to wait and see. I'm very curious. I'm very excited. And I really want to see. So, next, there was the Evolve show. I don't want to talk too much about it. But I do want to say I did find some guys there for the first time that I'm very excited to see, like, where their career goes. I'm looking it up really quick, just so that way I can make sure I say their names right. I do have notes if you pay attention to my Twitter. I took a picture of my G1 Climax notes for the day. Results. Like I said, I knew about Josh Briggs beforehand. He looked good against Anthony Green. He's probably going to be the next challenger for either the Evolve or the WWN championships. Or championship. Which is very interesting to see. Somebody relatively new that just signed getting a championship match so early. Steppenwolf looked really, really good. I've always liked Sean Maluda. Kurt Stallion looks like he's going to be interesting to see where he develops. Because he's still really, really small. If he develops into somebody amazing, great. He just needs muscle. Steppenwolf looked fantastic in the match. Sean Maluda for me. Tower Rouse, I think that's how you say it. It's A-R-T, yeah, A-R-T-U-R-O, Arturo, R-U-A-S, Rouse. And Anthony Henry just went to batter that living hell out of each other. That was fun to watch. Shazzy Blackheart, oh my god, she did a suicide dive onto a stack of chairs. Head first. The woman is certifiedly crazy. But I'm fine with it, as long as she's okay. And I'm very interested to see what she could possibly have like lined up for next. I really want to see her in a WWE ring. She could be the next coming of Lita in like the extreme girl type thing. And then really, Austin Theory versus JD Drake. I've been spouting about Theory for years. I've enjoyed him. I think he is the future. He's 21 years old. He's young. He's younger than me by a year. And he has that look that is like undoubtedly like a thing people look for. So I'm very excited to see what his future holds. I think he could easily be like a WWE champion level guy. Now, are we talking WWE champion level guy like Sami Zayn and The Miz, or WWE champion level guy like Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins? The jury's still out on that. I think he's in the Reigns and Rollins category more than the Zayn and Miz category, simply because I think he has that look Vince McMahon likes. So Austin Theory could be, and he should be a name you watch out for in these coming years. I would definitely circle his name. JD Drake has been somebody I've heard of and never seen before the match. He moves really well for a big guy. And his whole story is phenomenal. And I want to see more. I'm just nervous at his age that he doesn't have much left, because of the fact that he's older, and I don't know how much mileage he has on his tank. So I'm not saying I'm not saying he doesn't have a future in WWE or even in professional wrestling for that matter. But you compare him to Austin Theory. Theory has a lot more he can still give to the wrestling world as like an influence guy in the ring and out there wrestling. Whereas JD Drake could be a guy who's backstage more. So that was all the shows I wanted to talk about briefly. And then we had the G1 Climax. There are some notes I have here. I have a lot about everybody. I don't want to spend too long on this because I do want to talk about Extreme Rules in depth. So Lance Archer has looked really good recently in the tournament. I'm very curious to see where he goes. I have his match with Kenta set to go after this. I'm going to finish this. I'm going to edit it and then let that render. And then I can watch wrestling. Yay. He's one of the 3 guys in A-Block that are undefeated so far. I'm very curious to see where this is going. He's going to have some sort of character by the end of this. And I kind of like the direction it seems like he's going. He's that aggressive psychopath. But he also can be resilient when he needs to. Trying to think of like how else I can describe Archer. I'm not a fan of the claw. The way Rowan does it on SmackDown is the Iron Claw, where he actually like will slam you down. His is just like claw and push down. It seems dumb to me personally. I also want to know, who the hell did Zack Sabre Jr. piss off? He is so good. His first 2 matches are like 20 minutes long total. Who the hell did he piss off? I'm very curious to see what Sabre's direction is going to be for this tournament going forward. Especially now that he has Tanahashi. Which will be very interesting to see. Sabre is somebody who's like super slick, and Kevin Kelly brought it up on the show. Do you think that we just forget that Sabre is too good and Sabre out-wrestles himself? That could be the thing. So I'm curious to see what Sabre has in the future, especially for this tournament, because he was one of my favorites for A-Block going in. He still has time for a run. You just don't want to get in that 0-3 hole. Him or Tanahashi's going to be in it by the end of Night 5. But Sabre, since Sabre's younger, I would think it wouldn't be him. I've been wrong before, though. Also, how freaking over is Sonata with the American crowd? He came out, the whole place erupted. Sonata is somebody we like. We want to see Sonata succeed. Just give him a chance, please. I plead his case every single time, I feel. I just think he's a fantastic wrestler. Give him a chance. Somebody, anybody, put a title on this man. He's ready. And he went out and he even had a great match against, oh God, I can't find it in my notes, Ospreay. On night 3. And he couldn't be the junior heavyweight champion? Really? I want Sonata to succeed. I love seeing him in the ring. He's definitely my favorite LIJ member. He might be my personal favorite wrestler right now. Just give him a chance. Give this man a title. And I do want to talk about Kenta. I was watching the match in Dallas against Kota Ibushi. In the beginning, he looked rusty. It was his first match in like 4 months. And yeah, he's training, but you go out there live in front of a huge crowd like that. It's always different from just in a dojo or in like a wrestling school. At first, he looked a little rusty, but as the match like went on, after like the first few minutes, he seemed to like get into it and get back to the Kenta that everybody knows. I'm very curious to see where he's going. I'm very excited to see where he's going. He's a guy who can work really well in New Japan. So we'll see where it goes. Who else in A Block has been interesting? Tanahashi and Okada, they're always going to be good. The story they're doing with Tanahashi, I think, is interesting. Because Tanahashi said he wanted to be 100% by the G1, and he said he was, I believe. So far, he's 0-2. I haven't seen the Sabre match yet, but assuming he goes 0-3, the story they seem to be going with is Tanahashi good enough yet? Good enough still? Does Tanahashi still have it? I am enjoying it. I enjoy the questioning. I enjoy seeing what could this be the future we see without Tanahashi? Does he maybe take a smaller role so let the younger guys have a shot? And maybe, I still think Jericho's interfering on the final night in the tournament to set up Tanahashi Jericho for Wrestle Kingdom, which I really want to see, please. It'll be interesting to see because he does have winnable matches. Fale doesn't scream challenge, even though Fale is huge. Archer doesn't scream like a challenge. Evil, not so much. It's Ibushi, Sonata, and Ospreay that make me wonder. Like, he could run the table the rest of this tournament. Easily. After ZSJ, he could easily run the table. Because mathematically, he is better than every single one of those wrestlers. Mathematically. I guess like you look at it from a championship perspective, he's better than all those wrestlers. But in the ring, who knows? Okada is just Okada. Ibushi's Ibushi. Ibushi's not going to be at 0 long. What does he even have on night 5? I say like I don't have my notes right in front of me. Ibushi has Ospreay. And I picked Ospreay for that one. Well, I'm sticking by my picks. And then you look at B Block. There's some different stories going on. First off, Moxley looks fantastic in New Japan. He fits really well into the New Japan group. You have the physical striking ability, you have the wrestling ability, you have the dirtiness, the grittiness, the hard hitting, the resiliency, the leaning into the hard strikes. I'm very curious how far Moxley goes, but he looks like he fits in really well. There's no post-championship slump for Juice Robinson, which I'm very happy to see. And Juice seems like he has a new character, which is very interesting. And I'm very intrigued by it. I want to see where it goes. So I'm excited to see what Juice has for the rest of the tournament. And it's weird to say that. I like Juice Robinson, but I've never been like super invested in him. So this tournament could be a good sign for that. And this is something I'm probably going to be asking throughout the whole tournament, depending on how his tournament goes. Is this Ishii's year? In the B Block, it can happen. It's something that I want to see happen. I want to see Ishii get a run with the IWGP Heavyweight title. But my thing is, in this tournament, I hate picking a champion to win, even though my pick is Naito. So it's weird that I'm saying I want Ishii to win as a champion. If he wasn't a champion, it'd be easier for me to say. But I want Ishii freaking hold that big gold belt. Look nice. And in B block, he can make the final. If the way Naito and White wrestling continues, Ishii's got an inside track. He could beat Naito. He could beat White. He's beaten White already. He could beat Moxley tomorrow. If he loses to Moxley and he beats Naito, I'm not going to say it's smooth sailing because he still has Goto and Taichi, and even just Robinson. Now that you think about it, but it's a possibility that we could be seeing a lot of Ishii by the end of this tournament. Goto has looked good. He's kind of reestablishing himself in this tournament. He could be a player in B block. I'm enjoying seeing more from him. I'm just curious as to what Chaos's the whole Chaos thing is going to work as, because you have Okada as IWGP Heavyweight Champion. You have Goto. You have Ospreay as Junior Heavyweight. Where does that leave Yoshihashi? Where's Mikey Nichols? You could have Goto go for the mid-card titles, I guess. And then you have Nichols and Hashi as a tag team. I would actually like that. That would be interesting. It'll be interesting when we see what World Tag League's block looks like. Or even if they go to blocks. I would prefer it in blocks, to be fair. World Tag League is where we're going to see what Chaos's plan is. And the other thing with B block is the obvious story of Jay White and Tetsuya Naito. If you had told me going into this tournament that Zack Sabre Jr., Tanahashi, Kota Ibushi, Tetsuya Naito, and Jay White would all be at 0 points. 5 of the favorites in this tournament are at 0 points? I would have called you crazy. There is no way going into the 5th night of this tournament that those 5 guys would be scoreless. All 5 of them are playing from behind. 2 of them might catch up. I could see Ibushi and Naito catching up. I could see Tana getting close, but the Jericho factor kind of makes you think he might drop his last match. And Jay White's going to be a player in the end. There's a reason it's him versus Naito on the final night. So we'll see how it goes. I'm excited for night 5. I made my picks already. You can see those on Twitter. And you'll probably see those as this continues. But let's get into Extreme Rules, where it wasn't necessarily extreme, but it was a damn good show. Water tastes great. So, they started the show on the pre-show. Nakamura versus Finn Balor for the Intercontinental Championship. Why was this on the pre-show? Why? This was a fantastic match. Okay, I say fantastic. This was a really good match. So, why is it the pre-show? It wasn't as good as their SmackDown match. That one I think was a little bit better. But now knowing the whole story behind it, and Balor wanting a couple months off, which I understand, which is totally fine by me. I am curious as to what the plan is with Nakamura. What is Nakamura going to be? Is he going to be a long-reigning Intercontinental Champion like he has been in the past, especially with New Japan? Do we see him as a transitional champ? Who's the first challenger? It looks like it's going to be Ali, which I am very excited for. Nakamura, Ali, give me that match. Give those two 20 minutes, and it'll be great. I know I want 20 minutes for everybody, but you can't get that. Give them 15. Those two can put on a great match. I would be very interested to see it. I'm very excited to see it because it looks like that's the direction they might be heading. Andrade is going to come to mind. Apollo Crews could come to mind, and we get a Fatal 4-Way. Which, then you would get 20 for sure. I do have the fear he's a transitional champ, though. They're using this to get the title onto Ali, possibly. I want Nakamura to have a long reign. I would love it. Problem is SmackDown's mid-card is so talented, but so few guys are established. So, the hell do you do? Then there was Drew Gulak versus Tony Nese. Really good as always from the cruiserweights. Gulak is super slick. Nese is very solid. The question I had after this match is, what's next for both of them? Where does Tony Nese go? What is left for him to do on 205 Live? Who's Drew Gulak's next challenger? Looks like going forward it could be Mike Kanellis. I'm very curious about that because Kanellis hasn't really been set up well on Raw to be a challenger. So, how would that work? It was said he would get a future title shot if he could beat Drake Maverick. But they didn't necessarily say SummerSlam. We could see Tozawa, we could see Kendrick, we could see Carlolo, we could see Chad Gable. I would like Chad Gable versus Drew Gulak. That would be really damn good. But yeah, as always, the Cruiserweights killed it. It's a shame they're on the pre-show because they're so talented and they should be on the main show. I don't know. Who could we put on the pre-show? Put freaking Owens and Ziggler on the pre-show. The match would have gone more than 16 fucking seconds. Looking at it next, there was to kick off the main show. This surprised me. I'm very fine with it. They had Undertaker and Roman Reigns versus Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre. This match was better than it had any right to be. Very fun. It was a great ending. Looking at it though, I'm curious as to where are we going next. What's the next step for this? And that's always how my brain works with wrestling. Where do we go next? So let's look at some fantasy booking. We're getting Owens versus Shane McMahon at SummerSlam. And hopefully that's how we get Shane McMahon off of TV. We have... Oh, God, who else? Who else has got stuff? We could still see McIntyre versus Undertaker. I'm curious. McIntyre just lost to Cedric Alexander. It seems like they might have something for Cedric now. I'm very curious as to where it goes. And that leaves the odd man out as Roman Reigns. And you look at it, the Universal Championship match is set. Roman Reigns is in it. The WWE Championship match seems to be set. Roman Reigns isn't in that. What's Roman Reigns doing for SummerSlam? That's a question I think a lot of us are going to have as these weeks unfold. If we get to like the week before the show and there's no Roman Reigns match on SummerSlam, what is going on? Because I know people don't like Roman, but he's your biggest star. So what are you doing? The ending was really cool in this match where Shane hit the coast to coast with the trash can. Taker just sat up. Chokeslam Shane, chokeslam Elias. He does his taunt, his throat slash taunt, and Drew McIntyre just stands up in the background. And Undertaker gets out of focus, and Drew gets in focus. And then as Drew is getting ready to deliver the Claymore, spear out of nowhere, and then the tombstone on Shane. I think this does kind of symbolize the end of Shane McMahon on TV, which I'm totally fine with. So, Undertaker getting the win here kind of felt obvious. And like going into the show, I was questioning, is it going to be Taker or is it going to be McIntyre beating Taker? And Shane kind of builds it up as his win. I'm fine with it being Taker over Shane, but McIntyre over Taker would have been a very fine finisher as well. For me, at least. After that match, we had another tag match, but this time was for the Raw Tag Team Championships as the Revival faced the Usos. These two just work really well together. Fantastic chemistry. I enjoy watching them wrestle. The thing is, after a match like that, the crowd needs to take a minute to get back into it, which is totally fine with me. There was some nice tag team shout-outs by the Revival. They had Demolition's backbreaker to diving elbow off top rope. And they also had Power and Glory's superplex to the top rope splash. So, it was nice to see, and I'm enjoying the Revival as champions. I think they're great champions in a very weak division, because outside of them and the Usos, there's no real third team. I guess you put in the Club now, and oh god, I had a fourth team. Who was it? Yeah, who was it? War Raiders, that's who it was. I'm sorry, Viking Raiders. That's who it was. We could see a fatal four-way at SummerSlam. I'm thinking triple threat, which I'm totally fine with. So, it'll be interesting. Excuse me. I want to see it going forward. And I actually am curious about the Raw Tag Team division for the first time in a very long time. Which is a shame because they're all very talented wrestlers. I feel like you do Revival Usos too much after us wanting it for years. And it's like, oh, it's these two again. Great. But that's the state of the Raw Tag Team division. That's what we're going to get. We're not going to get Ascension anytime freaking soon. We're not going to see... I don't even know any other Raw Tag Teams. That's the 5 I know. I don't count Lucha House Party. Because they're 205 Live. Aleister Black and Cesaro was good. I just wanted 5 more minutes. Those two are going to work really well. They worked really well again on SmackDown. It's just something about those two that work. So, going forward, I do want to see that more. But I want to see what Aleister has for people other than Cesaro. I want to see him featured more on SmackDown, and I'm very excited to see it because I really enjoy Aleister Black. So, let's see where this goes. But there was some interesting stuff, too. At one point, Aleister Black had a knee bar in. Cesaro slipped through to the sharpshooter and then rotated into the crossface as Aleister got close to the ropes. You forget sometimes how slick Cesaro is because of how good he is at just everything else in the ring. And then he goes and does something slick like that, and you're like, oh yeah, right, he does that too. It'll be interesting to see. Especially the direction both of these guys go in now. Where does Aleister go? Who does he feud with next? Where does Cesaro go? Who, to me, we could see... Keep yawning. To me, we could see both of these guys win the mid-card titles on their respective shows, and then go to Survivor Series and face each other again, which I'd be totally fine with, and maybe they get a little more time. And also, what's going to be interesting is to see main roster-wise, because I believe Ciampa did it. Who's the first person to kick out of the Black Mass? And if I had to bet... Yeah, that's tough. If I had to bet, it would be whoever's Intercontinental Champion at the time when Aleister Black is about to take it. So, either Shinsuke, depending on how long his reign is, or Andrade. Which would be very interesting. Because it'd be NXT all over again. After that, we had Bayley versus Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. This one was, again, obvious, I feel, going from the outset. It was a little sloppy at first, but you can kind of associate that to working in Nikki Cross's character because of the fact that she's a little chaotic. So things aren't going to be as crisp as possible. You could kind of attest to that. It could also be me grasping at straws, for all I know. After that, things kind of settled down. And I will say this, and I still say it, this might have been Bayley's best match as a champion out on the main roster outside of WrestleMania 34. In her own singles type matches, this was her best for the championship. Because she's now given more she can do on SmackDown, which I am perfectly fine with. I enjoy watching more of Bayley. And we don't have to wonder who's next for Bayley. We know who's next. She's got Ember Moon at SummerSlam. And my God, that's a match I want to see get a lot of time. I really think that those two can go for a long time. And I'm very, very curious to see what they can do to try and one-up each other. And again, I feel like going into that match, it's a little obvious that Bayley's going to win. Because I don't think Ember Moon is ready just yet. But this is also like them rebuilding Bayley, and they can rebuild Ember Moon. Because when Ember first got called up, she went to Raw. She was winning, but she didn't do too much. And then she got hurt. Now she's on SmackDown. So a good chance to get her back into the fold in the good graces of the fans. And I'm very curious, how far is this Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross thing going to go? Could it carry them to the Women's Tag Team Championships? Absolutely. Could it all backfire and they turn on each other? Absolutely. So at this point, we don't know. And I'm curious as to how far we're going to go with this. Because it's obvious at some point Alexa is going to turn on Nikki. Just given their track record with Alexa, she's not a good friend. And yeah, sorry Nikki, but you should have listened to Bayley. Then there was Braun Strowman versus Bobby Lashley. Given that both guys aren't the best, this was really good. You saw them go throughout the entire arena and just try to beat the ever-living crap out of each other. The ending was a little weird to me. I don't mind they went through the big cardboard thing. It looked like a chute, like kind of like an entranceway if you were like playing basketball, and that was like the run out spot. So it was kind of a weird thing to look at in a WWE arena, but that wasn't the weird part to me. The weird part was when Strowman crashed through it, or like busted out of it. I feel like it was a little early in the count. I feel like it should have been at like 9, you see him bust through. He busted through at like 7. It would have been a little bit cooler, and it would have stopped the referee from counting for a second. It's like, oh, which one is it? Obviously, it would be Braun. So, yeah. I think Braun winning is the right call. I don't know how much more we're going to see of this feud or what's next for either guy. But this win for Braun is needed, and he just signed a new 4-year deal. So, where does Braun go next? What's next for Braun? And I can't really think of anything for SummerSlam. Could be Cesaro. I could be completely wrong. I really hope I'm wrong because I want to see Cesaro win. But this is a good way to help kind of reestablish who Braun Strowman is. And it's always been weird. He's never been able to break through the main event level. He's always been stuck at like that mid-main event level where like he can main event, but he can't beat the main eventers. So maybe we can fix that and he's ready to go with the main eventers. Who knows? Then we had the SmackDown Tag Team title match. Bryan and Rowan versus New Day versus Heavy Machinery. Bryan did have a good point. Robinson was going to start counting for disqualification because he was pulling on Xavier Woods' Was it his head? Was it his hair? I think it was his hair. Because then he went to the eyes. And Charles Robinson, as the referee, was going to start counting. And Bryan was like, oh, you're going to count? Oh, wait, it's no DQ. Which is true. You can't get disqualified in a triple threat match. Unless it's triple threat elimination. So very good job by Bryan there. They actually did play the no DQ bit later where Bryan had Big E in the label lock. And he was trying to crawl forward to get out of it. And then Bryan grabbed the leg and the other arm. And Big E almost had to pull himself out of the ring to get out of the submission. Really good job by Bryan paying attention to the rules. Otis's suicide dive was really funny. I enjoyed that. Heavy Machinery also had a really good slingshot into a side slam, which you don't see a lot of anymore. And Heavy Machinery is a really underrated tag team, I feel like. We always knew they were pretty good. They never were on a takeover. They never had championship matches in NXT. But they were always really solid, and I really enjoy them. And I think they could be main players in the SmackDown tag division, which really needs help. So, looking at it going forward, New Day winning is the right call. It helps kind of rejuvenate the tag team division, because now people are going to talk about it. So now we look at it as who can stop the New Day. The only answer really is Heavy Machinery. So, and those would be really fun. Those would be great comical bits, and I would enjoy it a lot. It's just, it would feel a little weird because it's face versus face. We don't know what's next for Woods and Big E. And what I was curious about, Woods channeled his old self in Consequences Creed with his suicide dive, or a tope. Might have been a Cone Hilo. And Big E channeled his old self from back in the day where straps came down and he was super serious. So we could see a Consequences Creed, Big E Langston kind of tag team going on between those two while Kofi is WWE champion. It'll be really interesting. I would really like it. And I want to see just what is really next for these two New Day guys. Especially considering the SmackDown Tag Division is them, Heavy Machinery, the Colognes, B Team, and that's really it. So, who really knows? When Jeff Hardy comes back, if Jeff Hardy comes back, there's another one. The Hardy Boys will be back together, so who really knows? Who knows? Then there was Ricochet versus Styles. This match was just good. They're just good wrestlers. I want to see more. I think we might see more, but I'm not confident in it. Simply because I don't know who else can really challenge for the U.S. title right now. Nobody else has really separated themselves from the pack to establish themselves as a singles champion competitor on Raw. I mean, Miz would be interesting, but I really do think we might see Miz versus Ziggler at SummerSlam. It's tough to figure out who. I don't know right now, but I will enjoy Styles versus Ricochet as long as it's going on. And as long as we see new and creative and innovative things, especially in this feud, because as soon as this feud started, you could feel Paul Heyman all over it. There's just that Paul Heyman-esque thing about it. And I'm really excited to see it because of the fact that these are two of the best workers in the world. So we get to see them go against each other, which is going to be really fun. It's just a fear that it was too soon to take the title from Ricochet. And I fear that simply because of the fact that I don't know if they're going to play hot potato with it. I don't want them to play hot potato with the title. I want it to stay on one person. And now that person would have to be AJ. So it's kind of like you want the title on Ricochet, but then AJ gets the title back, but then Ricochet, but AJ, and Ricochet, AJ. It's like, no. So I'm fine with AJ keeping the title. I'm curious if they get time at SummerSlam. So, I mean, they're obviously going to get time, but I don't know how much they're going to get. It's weird. Simply because of the fact that AJ is a top guy, and now he has a mid-card title. Where Ricochet could be a top guy, but you have to start somewhere. It's so weird and confusing, and my brain hurts now. Not gonna lie, my brain really does hurt. I'm more curious as to what's the next direction for the United States Championship in general. Because after AJ Styles, say AJ beats Ricochet again and Ricochet doesn't get a championship match for a little while, who would AJ Styles even drop it to? The only name coming to mind is Miz. So, little SOL there, but we'll see. And I am curious, people have talked about it, because we're probably getting The Fiend versus Finn Balor, or Bray Wyatt versus Finn Balor at SummerSlam. When Balor comes back, I wouldn't be surprised if he joins the club, which would be very, very appropriate, very, very fun, and I would very much like to see. It'd be a great different direction for Finn Balor, and it would help him reinvent and rejuvenate his character, and he would be allowed to do something different, which is really good. We haven't really seen heel Balor in WWE yet. We've seen glimpses and bits and pieces of it in his face runs, but we haven't really seen a full heel Finn Balor yet. So I'm very curious and excited to see what that would look like. And we could actually get to see that when he comes back from his brief hiatus. And then we get to the semifinal main event, because we're not talking about Owen Ziggler. There's nothing to talk about. But why did Dolph return if he's just going to get squashed by Kevin Owens and lose 2 championship matches to Kofi Kingston? Why did he come back? But anyway, back to the main event, the semi-main event, where it's Kofi Kingston and Samoa Joe. It was a decent match. It had a good storytelling point with Kofi's hand being the target. The finish just felt really rushed. So, with this match, you had like some back and forth, some good match type things. They matched up well with each other overall, but my thing is, how did the ending just feel rushed and quick and not very all there, I guess, for lack of a better term. So I look at it, it was just like a quick Trouble in Paradise, 1, 2, 3, that's it. So why was that? Is it because Joe's a Raw superstar? I really hope that's the case. So now, I guess like you didn't necessarily hurt Joe, but you didn't necessarily help Joe either. Joe has a history in WWE, at least, in the main roster even, of being the guy who's always a good hand and can cut amazing promos, but just comes up short in championship matches. He's lost the WWE Championship match 4 times to AJ Styles and now to Kofi. So my thing is, I hope it's because he was a Raw superstar and they really don't want Raw superstars to win SmackDown titles and vice versa, because the wild card rule is something that should burn and never be talked about ever again. But I want to see what Joe's direction on Raw would be. And if he's got no direction on Raw, then why would you even have moved him to Raw? The only reason I can think of would be for the U.S. title. What I want Bischoff and Heyman to introduce, I want them to introduce a trade system where they can trade superstars back and forth, but like say the shakeup comes around and then everybody's pretty much a free player. But like say if like there's nothing for Joe to do on Raw and there's something for like, I don't know, Andrade to do on SmackDown, then no, it wouldn't be Andrade, because Zelina wants to stay with Aleister. Like, the whole couple thing is always weird. So say there's nothing for Joe to do on Raw, and there's nothing for... Who's a name on SmackDown that would be fair to trade for Samoa Joe? Randy Orton. So there's nothing for Joe on Raw, nothing for Orton on SmackDown. You then trade those two, and there you go. Perfect. And it wouldn't have to be like every single week there's a trade. It could be like once a month, once every other month, something like that. So it would help. But Joe just being a Raw superstar in this match made it seem too obvious Kofi was retaining. And Kofi's now hit the 100-day champion mark, which I am totally fine with him losing the championship at some point soon now. Is it Orton at SummerSlam? I don't think. But I've been wrong with Orton in championship matches before. So the thing is, Orton is the challenger now. He pinned Kofi clean in the ring. So he's the next in line. Now, my thing is, this is the perfect way to have Kofi's whole story come full circle. He was supposed to get a main event push in 2011, but due to him missing a spot in a match with Orton, that got put on hold, and now we're seeing it 11 years later, roughly. Whereas he could have been a multi-time WWE champion at this point. So if he can beat Orton, this brings the whole story full circle and ended, which would be very nice to see. Does it happen? I don't know. But this match overall just left a weird taste in my mouth, because I'm like, that just felt super rushed, and I don't know how to feel. So as soon as it ended, I'm like, well, what's next for Kofi? I didn't even care to think about the match that much. But now we are on to the main event, which was the winner-take-all Extreme Rules mixed tag last chance match between the challengers of Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans versus the champions Seth Rollins, the Universal Champion, and Becky Lynch, the Raw Women's Champion. This match was pretty good overall. It was one-sided for the most part, but some good back and forth a little later. There was a spot by Corbin I really enjoyed. He hit a power bomb and then he rolled Rollins through and hit a deep six. That was actually a really good spot by Corbin, especially considering his limited wrestling knowledge. Like, Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch are coming in with years of experience from the independent scene, where Baron Corbin first started wrestling in like 2013 or something like that. And with his limited wrestling knowledge, outside of WWE, that was a really veteran spot for a relatively newcomer guy. And I don't think this ever felt like it was in question. Baron Corbin's not a legitimate threat to the Intercontinental, to the Universal Championship just yet. And Lacey Evans has lost more matches than she's won since being called up. She beat Natalya and Natalya. She has lost to Becky, 3 times now? And she lost to Charlotte. That's a 2-4 record. That's not championship material. So the outcome was never really in question, but the overall match itself had some intriguing points. And I don't mean to brag, but I did call it. Last week on this... I just knocked over my water bottle. Thank goodness it was empty. Just make sure it's still closed. There we go. On this very podcast, I said I wouldn't be surprised if this match was made as a mixed tag, simply so we could see some intergender wrestling without them getting in trouble or outright having a man versus a woman. Baron Corbin at the end of the day is on Becky Lynch. That looks like intergender wrestling to me. Now, I do like how it got Seth Rollins really pissed off after the match, or during the match, and him just going to town, and it was good storytelling by Lacey Evans, just like, I'm not helping that. I don't want to deal with an angry, mad Seth Rollins. That was good, and to me, of the Baron Corbin Seth Rollins feud and of the Lacey Evans Becky Lynch feud, these were the best matches for those respective feuds. And I'm very happy it's done, simply because I don't want to see Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins as a couple on my screen. Nowadays in wrestling, we know couples. We understand couples. The best example I can think of, we all know that Charlotte Flair and Andrade are dating. We know Zelina Vega and Aleister Black are married. And we know... What else do we know? Who else do we know is together? Now I'm trying to run through every single wrestling couple in my head. I can't think of any more. But like, we know those two are happening. Those two are things. Do we see them on TV together? No. We saw Zelina Vega and Aleister Black as a part of a feud. We didn't see them teaming together. I would rather have that as like, we understand they're dating. You don't have to make that a point of emphasis for your feud for your biggest two titles right now. That was my whole thing. I don't want this to be a point of emphasis. I want this just to be like oh, did you know they were dating? Like, yeah, we did. Shut up about it. Totally fine with that. And I'm happy it's gone. Happy we're on to the next thing. I would say we're on to the next thing, but the next big thing came in and cashed in and is your Universal Champion once again. Brock Lesnar is now Universal Champion. I think I'm the only person that thinks this is a good thing. Seth Rollins' whole thing is the Sting complex. He's a fantastic chaser. He is so good at chasing the championship around wherever it goes. He sucks as champion. Is it because they were giving him Baron Corbin? I think part of it. If they had given him... let's see. Who's another big card heel on Raw? If they had given him Samoa Joe, it would have been 10 times better. If they had given him Bray Wyatt, 10 times better. It was Baron Corbin. People don't care about Baron Corbin. They don't have a reason to care about Baron Corbin, so I understand that. But I feel like if you give Seth anybody else, he can make being champion work. It just hasn't worked since he's won the Universal title. Now, is Brock just like a thing where he's like, oh, now he's just going to go home with it again? Possibly not. I could see Seth winning it back at SummerSlam. But I do want to point out why I think this is a good thing. Because I said this, I personally am a fan of this, and I think it's a good thing. The Money in the Bank briefcase was going to be sitting on Brock Lesnar for a while. So, they figured, let's have him cash in during a Spider-Man movie. And then, Spider-Man movie. Have him cash in at Extreme Rules and then draw interest to the next one. Just so that way we can get the Money in the Bank off of Brock Lesnar. And people don't have to worry about it. And it could easily be Brock's just there, just so that way they could get rid of the briefcase, which is totally fine by me, because the briefcase did lose some luster. Baron Corbin and... Why do I always blank on whoever won the men's Money in the Bank last year? Braun Strowman. They both failed to cash in, and the men's Money in the Bank kind of had like the bad stigmatism about it. Now they're trying to like boost it up a little bit, which is nice to see. So I'm curious as to... If Seth Rollins doesn't win, I'm curious as to the direction that we're going to go with Brock Lesnar. But I'm also curious what this could be. I'm still waiting for the day where Brock Lesnar leaves an arena. Vince or some McMahon comes out and says, hey, we've got a new world championship, and there's the World Heavyweight Championship, and I can be happy. So... But I do say that Brock Lesnar cashing in was the right call. It was a good call. And it has me intrigued as to SummerSlam. I really hope Brock is the aggressor and the person who has the early aggression in the match. Because then I'll feel even more confident in Rollins. I keep yawning. I don't know why. In Rollins getting his title back. Anyway, I've talked for a lot longer than I had hoped about wrestling. I hope you enjoyed it this week. This has been episode 11 of the Armchair Armdrager Podcast. As always, like I always say, you can follow me on Twitter at ChurroSolider. You can follow this podcast at Podcast Armchair. You can even follow the website, right, for All Things Combat at Things Combat on Twitter. What is All Things Combat? We are a website that covers professional wrestling, boxing, and MMA. We have a lot of opinion-based things. We have a lot of rankings things that we've been doing. I did a breaking down predicting the G1 Climax a couple weeks ago, and it came out the day before the tournament. We've been doing SummerSlam yearly reviews. Still don't know when mine's going to get done for 2008, but we'll have to wait and see. We have some stuff going on in the boxing world. We've had a couple of UFC articles recently go up. So go out and check those out. Links will all be in the description below to those Twitter accounts. Thank you guys so much for listening. I will see you guys next week with not nearly as much breakdown. Maybe some sort of topic I can figure out with the wrestling world. Who knows? We'll see. Thank you guys for listening. Please feel free to share this video around on your social medias. Hit the like button, subscribe, all that good jazz. I'm very tired. I don't know if you could tell from this podcast. I will see you guys next week for more of the Armchair Armdrager Podcast.